The golden lights of El Palacio Real restaurant cast an elegant glow over Madrid's prestigious Salamanca district. Inside, Spain's elite dined carelessly, spending in one evening what many earned in a month. At his usual corner table sat Marcus Washington, a 35-year-old black entrepreneur who had built a luxury fashion empire worth 2.5 billion euros from nothing. Despite being one of the most successful self-made businessmen in Europe, tonight he felt strangely hollow. Marcus had grown up in the rough neighborhoods of Detroit before his family moved to Spain when he was 12. His father, a brilliant engineer, had been offered a position at a Spanish tech company. But Marcus never forgot the hunger, the cold nights, the feeling of being invisible to the world. Now, dressed in a custom Armani suit worth more than most people's cars, he mechanically cut his €200 Iberian ham while scrolling through acquisition reports on his phone. Outside, the November rain fell mercilessly on the Madrid streets. Through the restaurant's ornate windows, a small figure caught his attention. A boy, no more than 10 years old, pressed against the glass with desperate eyes. The child's clothes hung in tatters, his dark hair matted with dirt and rain, but his eyes held a spark that reminded Marcus of himself at that age. The boy hesitated for several minutes before finally pushing through the restaurant's heavy doors. The maitre d' immediately moved to intercept him. "Hey, you can't be in here," he barked. But the boy had already spotted Marcus and was walking toward him with trembling steps. "Excuse me, sir," the child whispered, his voice barely audible above the restaurant's ambient noise. I haven't eaten in days. Could I please have whatever you don't finish?" Marcus looked up from his phone and their eyes met. In that instant, something fundamental shifted inside the successful businessman. He saw himself, young, hungry, desperate, but still fighting. The boy's hands shook, not just from cold, but from malnutrition. "What's your name?" Marcus asked gently, setting down his phone entirely. "Diego," the boy replied, surprised by the kindness in the man's voice. "Diego, when did you last eat?" "I found half a sandwich in a dumpster on Monday, but today is Thursday," Diego said matter-of-factly, as if this was normal. Marcus felt his heart clench. He stood up, took Diego's small hand, and guided him to the chair beside him. "Waiter, bring another plate for my guest here." The waiter's face went pale. "Mr. Washington, but that boy is my guest," Marcus said firmly, his voice carrying the authority that had built an empire. "And bring hot chocolate too, the best you have." As Diego began to eat the expensive ham as if it were the most delicious meal in the world, he started telling his story. "My parents died in a car accident when I was 8, he said between careful bites, savoring each piece. "I went to live with the Garcia family. They took in foster kids for the state money." Marcus listened in silence, feeling a rage build inside him that he hadn't felt in years. "At first they seemed nice enough, but they kept all the money the state gave them and made me work around the house, cleaning, cooking, taking care of their own kids. Sometimes they didn't send me to school because I was more useful at home." Diego paused to sip the hot chocolate, and for the first time in months, a small smile crossed his face. "What about social services?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "When I tried to tell them what was happening, they said I was a troublemaker, that I was making up stories for attention." Diego's voice grew quieter. 6 months ago, Mr. Garcia tried to touch me in ways that felt wrong. When I screamed and fought back, he said I was possessed by demons. I ran away that night and never went back." Marcus felt his blood freeze. His own hands began to shake, not from cold or hunger, but from fury. "Where do you sleep, Diego?" "Under the arches at Atocha Station mostly. Sometimes in Retiro Park when it's not raining, but the security guards always chase me away." "The hardest part isn't the cold," Diego said with wisdom far beyond his 10 years. "It's when people look at you like you're dirt, like you're bad, like it's your fault." Tears, something Marcus hadn't shed in decades, began forming in his eyes. This was a successful businessman who had faced down corporate sharks and hostile takeovers, but a homeless boy's story was breaking him apart. "Diego, you are not at fault for anything. You're just a brave kid who's had terrible luck." "Mr. Marcus, you're very kind, but why do you look so sad? Even when you smile, your eyes look sad, like mine when I think about my parents." The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. How could this child, who had every reason to be bitter and angry, still have the capacity to see into someone else's heart? "You know what, Diego? You're right. I have everything money can buy, but I don't have what you still have, the ability to see into people's hearts and care about their pain." Without thinking, Marcus made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I'm taking you somewhere warm tonight." Diego looked at him with a mixture of hope and fear. "Really? You won't leave me like everyone else does?" "I promise you," Marcus said, knowing his life would never be the same. Marcus brought Diego to his penthouse in the exclusive Chambery district. The boy had never seen anything like it. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art on the walls, furniture that cost more than most people's annual salaries. "It's like a palace," Diego whispered, staring at the high ceilings and designer furnishings. "You can take a hot shower, I'll find you clean clothes, and then you'll sleep in the guest room," Marcus said, watching as Diego's eyes filled with disbelief. When Diego emerged from the bathroom, he looked like a different person. His dark hair was clean and shining, and he was wearing one of Marcus's cashmere sweaters that hung loose on his small frame. "You look incredible," Marcus said sincerely. He led Diego to the guest room with its king-size bed and silk sheets. "Mr. Marcus, why are you helping me?" Diego asked as Marcus tucked him in. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "I always thought success was everything, but tonight, watching you eat with such joy, I realized I've never done anything truly important with my life." "You taught me something too," Diego said sleepily. "What's that?" "That there are still good people in the world." But at 3 a.m. Marcus woke to a sound. He rushed to Diego's room. The bed was empty. On the desk he found a note written in a child's careful handwriting. "Dear Mr. Marcus, you have been so good to me, but I only bring trouble to people. People like me can't stay in beautiful places. Thank you for the best dinner of my life. Diego." Marcus felt his world collapse. He threw on clothes and ran into the Madrid streets, searching frantically. Atocha, Salamanca, Malasaña, nothing. At 6 a.m. he called the police. "It happens often," the commissioner said dismissively. "These street kids don't trust anyone." But Marcus knew the truth. Diego had left because he felt unworthy of kindness. At that moment, Marcus made the most important decision of his life. He wouldn't give up. He would find Diego and show him that he deserved all the love in the world. For 4 days, Marcus transformed his search for Diego into his only priority. He canceled multi-million-euro meetings, hired private investigators, and put up posters throughout Madrid featuring Diego's photo and a reward for information. "Mr. Washington, the stock has dropped 3%, his assistant informed him. "Investors are worried about your absence from crucial negotiations." "Diego is more important than any business deal," Marcus replied without hesitation. On the 5th day, a street vendor called. "I've seen the boy from the poster. He's been here at Atocha since this morning. He looks very sick." Marcus ran faster than he had ever run. He found Diego collapsed under an archway, burning with fever, coughing violently, his cleaned clothes now dirty again. The boy's eyes were dull and unfocused. "Diego," Marcus shouted, dropping to his knees beside him. "Mr. Marcus, am I dreaming?" Diego whispered weakly. "No, little one. I'm here for real." Marcus lifted Diego in his arms. He was light as a feather, burning with fever. "Why did you leave?" "Because I don't deserve beautiful things," Diego murmured. "I'm dirty, I'm bad." "No, you are the most precious thing I've ever known, and I will never leave you again." At La Paz Hospital, doctors diagnosed pneumonia. "He'll need to stay for a week. Fortunately, you found him just in time," the doctor said. Marcus didn't leave Diego's bedside for 6 days and 6 nights. On the 7th day, Diego woke with clear eyes. "Did you stay here the whole time?" Diego asked in a weak voice. "Where else would I be?" Diego began to cry. "No one ever stayed with me when I was sick." Marcus took his hand. "Diego, I want to ask you something very important. Would you like to come live with me forever?" "But I'm not your son." "You could be. I'd like to adopt you. I'd like you to be my son." Diego burst into liberating tears. "Really? Can I have a dad again? I'll be the best father in the world to you." As they embraced, both knew they had found what they had been searching for their entire lives. 6 months later, the adoption was official. Diego lived with Marcus, attended a private school, and had everything he could want. But the biggest change was in Marcus himself. "Dad Marcus, why aren't you going to the office today?" Diego asked during breakfast. "Because I learned that money can always be earned, but time with you never comes back." Marcus had created the Diego Washington Foundation for Homeless Children, opening shelter centers throughout Spain. He discovered that his own success meant nothing if he couldn't use it to help others like Diego. At school, some classmates teased Diego. Is it true you used to be a homeless kid? A boy had asked him mockingly. Diego came home crying. Dad, Marcus, maybe I don't deserve this life. Marcus knelt in front of him. Diego, you're not here because I bought you. You saved my life. Before I met you, I was rich but empty. You taught me what it means to truly love. The next day, Marcus went to Diego's school. Children, I want to tell you a story, he said to the class. He told them about that night at the restaurant, about Diego's courage, about how a homeless boy had taught a successful businessman the true meaning of life. Diego isn't just my son, he's my hero. From that day forward, Diego became the most popular kid in his class. 2 years after the adoption, the Diego Washington Foundation had helped over 500 children across Spain. Diego, now 13, had become the foundation's youngest ambassador. During a visit to their center in Seville, Diego met Isabel, a 10-year-old girl with sad eyes. I was homeless too, Diego told her simply. But then I met my dad, and everything changed. Really? You lived on the streets too? Yes, and I learned that it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you're going. That night in their hotel, Marcus watched Diego studying. You know what I'm most proud of? Your heart. Your ability to help others despite what you went through. I learned it from you, Dad. On Diego's 14th birthday, Marcus organized a celebration at their estate outside Madrid. But the most beautiful gift wasn't under the tree. Diego, Marcus said in front of all the guests, 3 years ago, you were a boy who asked for my leftovers. Today, you're an incredible teenager who helps other children. He held up a document. I've decided to donate half of my wealth to the foundation, 1.2 billion euros to help all homeless children in Europe. Diego was speechless. 1.2 billion? You taught me that true wealth isn't money, it's the love you give and receive. And I've received more love from you than I've ever had. I love you so much, Dad. I love you too, son. You are my miracle. That night, looking at the stars, Diego said, Dad, do you think my parents in heaven are happy with you? Why do you ask me that? Because you managed to make me truly happy. Marcus understood that he had accomplished the most difficult task of all, building a family based on true love. 3 years after that encounter at El Palacio Real, Diego was 15 and had become an extraordinary teenager. He excelled in school and led foundation projects. Today we inaugurate Center number 50, Diego said in front of the cameras. Every child we help is a life that changes. Marcus watched from the back row, his eyes filled with pride. That night, they returned to El Palacio Real, the same table, the same waiter who now welcomed them with respect. Diego ordered the Iberian ham, the same dish from their first time. You know what I think? Diego said while they waited. That night, it wasn't me who asked for your leftovers. It was destiny that made us find each other. Why do you say that? Because you needed me as much as I needed you. You were rich but alone. I was poor, but had a lot of love to give. At that moment, a young girl approached, about 8 years old, dirty clothes, frightened eyes. Excuse me, sirs, could you give me some of your bread? Diego and Marcus looked at each other and smiled. What's your name? Diego asked. Anna. Anna, when did you last eat? Yesterday morning. Diego had Anna sit next to him. Waiter, another plate for our little guest. As Anna ate with the same gratitude that Diego had shown years before, Marcus understood that the circle had closed. Kindness had become a legacy passed from heart to heart. Dad, Diego whispered, I think we found a new little sister. I think so too. And as Anna ate her first warm meal in days, 3 generations came together. One who had learned to love, one who had learned to be loved, and one who was about to discover that love can change everything. Because sometimes miracles begin with, can I have your leftovers? And end with a family bound by ties of the heart that last forever. At the courthouse, when the adoption was finalized, Diego asked, Dad, can I help you with the foundation? I want to help other kids like me. Of course you can. We'll be a team. Walking through Madrid hand in hand, both knew their meeting hadn't been coincidental. It had been destiny uniting 2 souls who needed each other. 2 years after the adoption, the Diego Washington Foundation had helped more than 500 children throughout Spain. Diego, now 13, had become the foundation's youngest ambassador. During a visit to the Seville Center, Diego met Isabel, a 10-year-old girl with sad eyes. I was homeless too, Diego told her simply. But then I met my dad and everything changed. Really? You lived on the streets too? Yes. And I learned that it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you're going. That night at the hotel, Marcus watched Diego studying. You know what I'm most proud of? Your heart. Your ability to help others despite what you went through. I learned it from you, Dad. On Diego's 13th birthday, Marcus organized a party at the estate outside Madrid. But the most beautiful gift wasn't under the tree. Diego, Marcus said in front of the guests, a year ago you were a boy who asked for my leftovers. Today you're an incredible teenager who helps other children. He took out a document. I've decided to donate half of my patrimony to the foundation, 1 billion euros to help all homeless children in Europe. Diego was breathless. 1 billion? You taught me that true wealth isn't money. It's the love you give and receive. And I've received more love from you than I've ever had. I love you so much, Dad. I love you too, son. You are my miracle. That night, looking at the stars, Diego said, Dad, do you think my parents from heaven are happy with you? Why do you ask me that? Because you managed to make me truly happy. Marcus understood he had accomplished the most difficult task, building a family based on true love. 3 years after that encounter at El Palacio Real, Diego was 14 and had become an extraordinary teenager. He excelled at school and directed foundation projects. Today we inaugurate Center number 50, Diego said in front of the cameras. Every child we help is a life that changes. Marcus watched from the back row with eyes full of pride. That night they returned to El Palacio Real restaurant, the same table, the same waiter who now received them with respect. Diego ordered the Iberian ham, the same dish from the first time. You know what I think? Diego said while they waited. That night it wasn't me who asked for your leftovers. It was destiny that made us find each other. Why do you say that? Because you needed me as much as I needed you. You were rich but alone. I was poor but had a lot of love to give. At that moment, an 8-year-old girl approached. Dirty clothes, frightened eyes. Excuse me, sirs. Could you give me some of your bread? Diego and Marcus looked at each other and smiled. What's your name? Diego asked. Anna. Anna, when did you last eat? Yesterday morning. Diego made Anna sit next to him. Waiter, another plate for our little guest. While Anna ate with the same gratitude that Diego had years before, Marcus understood that the circle had closed. Kindness had become a legacy transmitted from heart to heart. Dad, Diego whispered, I think we found a new little sister. I think so too. And while Anna ate her first warm meal in days, 3 generations of souls came together. One who had learned to love, one who had learned to be loved, and one who was about to discover that love can change everything. The adoption process for Anna began immediately. Marcus had learned from Diego's case and hired the best family lawyers in Spain. Within months, Anna was legally part of their family. She moved into the penthouse, started at Diego's school, and began the healing process from her own traumatic past. Dad, Marcus, Anna said one morning at breakfast, Diego told me you were sad before you met him. Is that true? Marcus smiled, watching his 2 children eat together. Yes, Anna. I had everything money could buy, but I was missing the most important thing. What's that? A family, people to love, and who love me back. Diego, now 15, had started a peer mentoring program at the foundation. He worked directly with newly rescued children, helping them adjust to their new lives. His own experience gave him a unique ability to connect with kids who had lost hope. The hardest part, Diego explained to a group of new arrivals at the Madrid Center, isn't learning to trust that the food will keep coming, or that you'll have a bed every night. The hardest part is learning to believe you deserve it. A boy named Carlos, barely 9 years old, raised his hand. But what if we're too damaged? What if we can't be normal kids anymore? Diego knelt down to Carlos's level. I used to think the same thing. I thought the streets had broken something inside me that couldn't be fixed. But love is stronger than trauma. Love can heal things you didn't even know were broken. 6 months later, Carlos was thriving in a loving foster family that the foundation had carefully vetted and supported. The foundation's work expanded beyond Spain. Marcus opened centers in France, Italy, and Germany. They developed a comprehensive program that didn't just provide shelter, but included therapy, education, job training for older teens, and most importantly, family placement services. We don't just want to house these children, Marcus explained to a European Parliament committee where he was testifying about child homelessness. We want to heal them and give them futures. Every child deserves not just survival, but the chance to thrive. Diego, now 16, often accompanied Marcus to these speaking engagements. His first-hand perspective was powerful and moving to audiences of politicians and donors. At one particularly memorable conference in Brussels, Diego was asked by a skeptical parliament member, "How do we know these programs actually work long-term? How do we know these children won't just end up back on the streets?" Diego stood up slowly, his presence commanding despite his youth. "Sir, 3 years ago I was eating garbage and sleeping under train station arches. Today I'm addressing the European Parliament about child welfare policy. I think that's a pretty good indication that love and proper support work." The room erupted in applause. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came on a quiet Sunday morning when Marcus found Diego and Ana in the kitchen making breakfast together. Ana was carefully cracking eggs while Diego coached her, both of them laughing when she got shell fragments in the bowl. "Dad," Ana called out when she saw Marcus, "Diego is teaching me to make your favorite omelet." "And she's doing great," Diego added, ruffling Ana's hair. "Better than I did when I first tried." Marcus sat down at the kitchen island, watching his children work together. 3 years ago, he had been alone in a penthouse, successful but empty. Now his home was filled with laughter, with purpose, with love. "You know what I was thinking about last night?" Marcus said. "What?" both kids asked simultaneously. "I was thinking about how that night at the restaurant I thought I was just buying dinner for a hungry kid. I had no idea I was actually adopting a son who would teach me how to be a father, who would bring me a daughter, who would help me find my life's real purpose." Diego paused in his cooking. "And I thought I was just asking for scraps. I had no idea I was actually finding my dad and my little sister and my whole future." Ana looked between them seriously. "And I thought I was just asking for bread, but I was actually asking to be part of the best family in the world." They all hugged in the kitchen, surrounded by the smell of eggs and coffee and the sound of Madrid waking up outside their windows. Later that day, they visited the original center where Diego had first started volunteering. It was visiting day, and families who had adopted children through the foundation came by with updates and photos. Marcus watched a couple show off pictures of their newly adopted daughter's first day of school, saw a single mother beam with pride as her adopted son showed off a soccer trophy, witnessed a grandfather carefully braiding his adopted granddaughter's hair. "This is what success looks like," Marcus thought to himself. "Not the billions in the bank, not the magazine covers or business awards. This, families being formed, children being loved, lives being saved one heart at a time." That evening, as had become their tradition, the three of them sat on the penthouse balcony watching the sunset over Madrid. Ana curled up between Marcus and Diego, half asleep after a long day of visiting the centers. "Dad," Diego said quietly, "do you ever regret it? Giving up the quiet life for all this chaos?" Marcus looked at his son, brilliant, compassionate, driven to help others despite his own painful past. Then he looked at Ana, who was learning to laugh again after years of abuse and neglect. "Diego, before I met you, I wasn't living. I was just existing. You both gave me a life worth living." "Even when Ana put salt in your coffee instead of sugar?" Diego teased. "Hey!" Ana protested sleepily. "That was an accident." "Even then," Marcus laughed. "Especially then." As the stars came out over the city, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them together. A successful businessman's moment of compassion, a homeless child's desperate courage, another little girl's plea for bread, each moment building on the last, creating something beautiful and lasting. The foundation continued to grow. By Diego's 18th birthday, they had helped over 2,000 children across Europe find permanent, loving homes. They had pioneered new approaches to child trauma therapy, created job training programs for aging-out foster youth, and influenced policy changes in 7 countries. But more than the numbers, more than the recognition and awards, what mattered most were the individual stories. Carlos, who became a doctor and returned to work at their Barcelona center. Maria, who started her own small foundation in her hometown. Ahmed, who became a teacher and adopted 3 siblings from the system. Each child they helped went on to help others, creating ripples of compassion that spread far beyond what Marcus could have imagined that night at El Palacio Real. On the 5th anniversary of Diego's adoption, they held a celebration at the original Madrid center. Hundreds of families attended: adoptive parents, adopted children, foundation staff, volunteers, and supporters. Diego, now 18 and heading to university in the fall to study social work and international relations, stood up to address the crowd. 5 years ago, I was a boy who had given up hope. I thought I was invisible, worthless, destined to disappear into the streets of Madrid. But my dad saw me. He saw past the dirt and the fear and the desperate hunger, and he saw a son. His voice grew stronger as he continued. But this story isn't just about me and my dad and my sister Anna. It's about all of us. It's about choosing to see each other's humanity. It's about understanding that love isn't something you earn. It's something you deserve simply by being alive. He paused, looking around the room at all the families who had been formed through their work. We are proof that families aren't just born. They're created by people who choose to love each other. We are proof that it's never too late to change a life, and that sometimes the person you're trying to save ends up saving you right back. The applause was thunderous, but Marcus was watching Anna, who was now 11 and standing on her chair clapping enthusiastically. She had grown into a confident, joyful child who helped newer kids adjust to the center with the same patience Diego had once shown her. That night, back at the penthouse, Anna was already asleep and Diego was packing for his summer internship at UNICEF headquarters in Geneva. "I'm proud of you, son," Marcus said, helping Diego fold his suits for the professional setting. "I learned from the best," Diego replied. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always. Are you going to be okay with me gone for the summer? I know Anna's still adjusting and the foundation is expanding into Eastern Europe." Marcus smiled. "Diego, you're 18 years old. You're supposed to be spreading your wings and seeing the world. Anna and I will be fine. Besides, we'll video call every day, and you'll be home for Anna's birthday in August. Promise?" "Promise." "And Diego, I want you to know that watching you grow into the man you've become has been the greatest privilege of my life. Your parents would be so proud of who you are." Diego hugged his father tightly. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. More than all the stars in the sky." 2 months later, Diego called from Geneva with exciting news. "Dad, they want me to help design a new global initiative for homeless youth. They're calling it the Madrid model because our foundation's approach has been so successful." "That's incredible, Diego." "And Dad, they want you to be the keynote speaker at the launch. Will you do it?" Marcus looked around his home office, walls covered with photos of their family and all the children they'd helped over the years. 5 years ago, this room had been sterile and cold, decorated with business awards and stock certificates. Now it was alive with love and purpose. "Of course I will. We'll do it together. All 3 of us. Anna can help present the children's perspective." 6 months later, at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Marcus stood before delegates from 193 countries to launch the Madrid model for homeless youth intervention. "Distinguished delegates," he began, "5 years ago, I was a successful businessman who thought he had everything. I was wrong. I had money, I had power, I had recognition, but I didn't have purpose. I didn't have love. I didn't have family." He clicked to a slide showing a photo of him, Diego, and Anna at Diego's high school graduation. "This is my family. My son Diego was once a homeless child begging for scraps outside a Madrid restaurant. My daughter Anna was living in an abusive foster situation before finding her way to us. Together, we have learned that love truly can change everything." The presentation went on to detail their foundation's comprehensive approach: immediate intervention, trauma-informed therapy, educational support, family placement services, and long-term follow-up care. But Marcus closed with something more personal. "The Madrid model works because it's based on a simple truth. Every child deserves love, and every child has something valuable to contribute to the world." Diego wasn't just a problem to be solved. He was a son waiting to be claimed. Anna wasn't just a case file. She was a daughter waiting to be cherished. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "We cannot solve the global crisis of homeless children with policy alone, though policy matters. We cannot solve it with funding alone, though funding is essential. We can only solve it by remembering that behind every statistic is a child who dreams of having someone to call family." The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterwards, at the reception, a delegate from Kenya approached Marcus. "Mr. Washington, my country would like to pilot the Madrid model in Nairobi. Would your foundation consider partnering with us?" Over the next hour, Marcus was approached by representatives from 12 different countries, all wanting to implement their approach. Diego, now 19 and serving as the foundation's youth ambassador, was fielding his own conversations with UNICEF officials about expanding the peer mentoring program globally. Anna, 12 and increasingly confident, was charming a group of child welfare advocates with her stories about how the foundation had helped her heal and grow. That night, in their hotel suite overlooking Central Park, the three of them sat together sharing room service and reflecting on the day. "Can you believe this?" Anna asked, still excited from the reception. "People from all over the world want to help kids like we were." "It's incredible," Diego agreed. "Dad, did you ever imagine it would grow this big?" Marcus looked at his children. Diego, now a young man preparing for his junior year of university and already being recruited by international organizations. Anna, blossoming into a thoughtful, compassionate young woman who wanted to become a child psychologist. Honestly, no. That night at the restaurant, I was just thinking about one hungry boy. I had no idea that one moment of compassion could ripple out to touch thousands of lives across the globe. "That's the power of love," Anna said matter-of-factly. "It multiplies." "Where did you learn that?" Marcus asked, amazed by his daughter's wisdom. "From you and Diego. Every time you love someone, it makes it easier for them to love someone else, and then that person loves someone else, and it just keeps going." Diego grinned. "Our little sister is getting too smart for her own good." "I learned from the best big brother in the world," Anna shot back, making Diego blush. As they prepared for bed, Marcus stood at the window looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow they would fly back to Madrid, back to their foundation, back to the daily work of saving one child at a time. But tonight, he was simply grateful. Grateful for a hungry boy's courage, for a little girl's trust, for the opportunity to turn his success into something meaningful. His phone buzzed with a text from Diego. "Dad, thank you for seeing me that night when everyone else looked through me. Thank you for showing me that love isn't something you have to earn." A moment later, Anna's text appeared. "Daddy Marcus, thank you for giving me the best family and showing me that I'm worth loving." Marcus typed back, "Thank you both for giving my life meaning. You are my greatest accomplishments and my deepest joy." As he drifted off to sleep, Marcus thought about all the children still out there, hungry, cold, afraid, believing they're invisible. Tomorrow, the Madrid model would help some of them find families. Next week, their foundation would open 2 new centers. Next month, Diego would start his internship with UNESCO. The work would continue, one child at a time, one family at a time, one moment of compassion at a time, because sometimes miracles begin with, "Can I have your leftovers?" and end with a global movement that proves love truly can change everything. And in their dreams that night, Marcus, Diego, and Anna all smiled, knowing that the best parts of their story were still being written.